Hello, thanks so much for tuning into today's episode of Career Conversations. I'm your host, Unica Walcott, and today's guest is Keelin Cox. You may know her as the host of AEC Marketeer podcast, but she's also got a new exciting adventure. She started Adiuvo Marketing. She's going to probably correct me if I butchered it. But I'm super excited to share this news with you all. Welcome, Keelin, to the show. Keelin, help me get it right.
Adiuvo. Like adieu.
Okay. Got it. Okay, so let's start with this. So what you're a founder now. What does your family think that means?
What does my family think that means? Well, hopefully they think it means I'm less stressed because I am.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah. I'm lucky that my husband is a business owner as well. So he kind of has helped guide me through this process. And yeah, it's been really fun. It's been a few short weeks, but it's been fun so far.
Look, it's a starting place, and that's an exciting adventure. What has been the most surprising part so far of getting started?
Good question. I think like being able to make decisions, big decisions for myself, and realizing that I don't need sign off from anyone to make these decisions. Like
What a feeling,
if I want to buy something, it's my money. So it's, I'm the one who I have to run things by, which is kind of cool.
That's gotta be fun. You're like, do we need this fancy coffee maker or no?
Right.
Well, I need coffee to run my business, and I need the best. It's like,
yep.
That's got to be so fun. But I want to talk a little bit more about what you offer as a marketing company and why you've decided to make the transition.
Yeah. So basically, I had a little girl about 8 months ago, and when I was pregnant, I sort of realized that proposals wasn't necessarily something that I wanted to do forever. I just had seen a lot of my colleagues burn out, essentially. They were missing really important, life events, like their daughter's dance recital. And, when I didn't have a kid and wasn't planning on having a kid, I was like, oh, that's a shame. But then once I got pregnant, I was like, no way. Like I'm going to be there for every one of her dance recitals, for her soccer games, whatever she decides to do. And a proposal deadline is not going to get in the way of that. And when I had her, I just realized that the high stress, deadline driven proposal world just wasn't sustainable for me. I also had a little bit of postpartum depression, so I just didn't have the same energy that I was used to having. I'm used to just, guns blazing and
right, get it done. We're going to find a way.
Exactly. But, when your nanny leaves at 4, you're done at 4. So I didn't realize how much overtime I was doing without actually charging overtime, and just sort of decided to take a step back from everything to figure out what I wanted to do, to sort of reassess my career. And one of my good friends now, Matthew Winkelstein, who I had actually interviewed on the podcast, has started his own consultancy and was like, hey, I'd like to run some ideas by you. And so I basically started this consultancy as a way to basically be a sub-consultant to consultants. So what I offer, the long answer.
No, this is good. Like, I think it's important for people to really understand your motivations and like how you work.
Yeah, is essentially everything but proposals. Like, I'll do the strategy, I'll do marketing audits, I'll do anything that has to do with marketing in AEC or even outside of AEC, but I will not touch another proposal.
That must be a disease going around. I feel like a lot of people have kind of come to that conclusion, like in the industry lately. People have talked enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, I think Catherine Bennett is someone that I really look up to in this space. And she had posted something that said, I was on my hospital. I had gotten so sick from stress that I was in the hospital, and I was still preparing a proposal in my hospital bed, and talked to a few other people who had also been doing the same thing. And there's such this skewed idea of teamwork at the expense of our health. So I'm not surprised that everyone's leaving, because again, I didn't find it to be a very sustainable thing. And I think it's a culture shift that needs to happen. And it's going to happen if firms want to keep people in marketing.
I agree. I've talked to so many people, like I said, Catherine, I saw her post about being in her hospital bed and kind of the people sounding off going, me too. It's like, this is not a me too moment we want either. Like,
no, like this is not okay.
it's not okay. Yeah. I mean, I was recovering from surgery, phone call. Hey, we can't find this. It's like, I'm on, heavy narcotics. Should I be taking this call? Like,
Right.
So yeah, I definitely understand like that there's this whole idea of teamwork, but it's more like you're the quarterback / like 85% of the team, and we'll kind of chime in is sometimes how these efforts go. And it can be really, really taxing on you physically. I've talked to other people who have said, I know a lot of people in the industry who have autoimmune diseases and things of that nature. And I think the sad part is it's not surprising to any of us.
Right. That wasn't breaking news.
No, it was not. It was like, oh, you too. Like you're on Prozac too. Me too. Like
yeah.
It's a lot.
It is.
So how did you come up with a name for your company?
Oh, good question. So I looked up Latin words that I really liked. And I sort of stole the idea from my husband. So my husband's company is Adiuvo Learning. And so then I literally just Googled Latin words and looked up like that said Latin word next to marketing to see if it existed. And I thought, because I plan on sub-consulting to consultants, I was like, okay, well, it has to be something to reflect that. So Adiuvo is like to assist. And I thought, okay, that's perfect. Like I'm assisting with marketing. So that's basically it. Yeah.
That's a great approach. I like the name and I like the story behind it. That is really well thought out. Let's see. What led you to feel like you would be comfortable in consulting? You said your husband's also a business owner. Like what made you like inspired and comfortable with taking the leap from a professional standpoint?
Yeah, well, I think for me, the leap was actually quitting my job with no other job lined up.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was the biggest leap. So then when I'm looking at starting my own company, I was like, well, I mean,
like, the worst part's over. We already ripped the Band-Aid off.
Exactly. And it was a really interesting opportunity to see like the different career trajectories I could now take now that I had stepped back. It wasn't like I was, having to work a full-time job and then figure out what I wanted to do next. I just had all of that time to dedicate to what do I really, really love? What do I really, really want to do? I'd been to school for environmental studies and ended up in marketing because I couldn't find a job in environmental.
Really?
When I came back to the United States, I didn't have the right experience under my belt. I had been, working in an architecture firm. I had worked in a sustainability startup, but then when I came back here, the jobs that I was applying for, I wanted to learn them, but I didn't have the proof that I could do them. I didn't have previous experience. So I didn't get the jobs. And I was at a point where I was like, I need a job. So I was introduced to AEC Marketing and I loved it. It sort of hit right on my type A personality.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, it's worked up till this point. But yeah, I was able to just sort of say, okay, what do I actually want to do with my time in a way that still allows me to have a family, you know, still allows me to have the dynamic that I want to have. Um, and this was the answer to that. I don't have to ask anyone for vacation time, which is another big one for me.
Right. Or like, hey, I'm going to be long on lunch. It's like, as long as I deliver the thing that I have promised the consultant,
Exactly.
whether I do it at 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., it's my business.
Yep. And that's what I'm able to pick up projects on a project by project basis. So I can commit to a project, essentially.
That's nice. So do you envision signing like longer retainers to sub to people, or are you thinking just project by project basis to kind of like maybe test things out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of both. I don't, like I said, I'm a few weeks into this, so right now I'm still just on individual projects, but I would think that, you know, if I find a firm or a consultancy that I like working for regularly, that's totally game. Just figuring it out as I go.
No, this is great. No, I love that you're like, look, this is where it does. So many people don't talk about this experience in their business. Like, I'm probably going to call you a year or two later, and it's probably going to be a completely different sort of like, you know, backstory of like, okay, this is how I got here, you know, generating more income, and I've got more work that I know what to do with. Like it could very well be that in a year or two, but like, we don't ever talk about like the genesis of like businesses. So I'm really excited, and thank you for being, you know, willing to share this with me. Thank you.
Totally. Yeah. Happy to.
So
yeah.
You've said you've got like a different variety of experiences. Do you have like a favorite sort of project type that you like to get your hands on?
I have two sort of, and they're kind of related and then not. So I love strategy and I love big thinking. I'm a big picture thinker. If I get too in the weeds, I get a little bit bored and overwhelmed. It's a weird combo.
No, it's not, because I'm literally the same way and was living in that space today. I was like, I'm bored outside of my head, but I need to do these things and I don't want to do any of them because they're in the weeds task. Like, can you format this for the 50 billionth time? Like, who could I hand it to, please? So I understand. So it's like, it's not
I like thinking, you know, like imagine that.
I mean, but I think people take for granted how important it is to be like a strategic thinker when you're going to be in a proposal management space. Like, it's not just strategic thinking about how to respond to the client, but also your internal clients are really important. Trying to figure out how to foster those relationships with people, trying to figure out how to strategize, how to milk the words out of them that they were supposed to write 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Like, that takes a special kind of skill and like finesse to like keep things cordial.
Yeah, when all you really want to do is like send that one email, you know?
Yeah, that's like the email you type and don't send so you can get it out instead of hold it in.
Yep.
Well,
yeah.
Tell me this. What did you think you would be when you grew up? Like, what did you want to be?
So I remember like this one day we had, I think it was like in 3rd grade, and we were meant to come to school dressed up as who we wanted or what we wanted to be when we grew up. I grew up playing soccer. So for me, Mia Hamm was my hero.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
This is dope.
So get this. So I came to school dressed as Mia Hamm. And when I was asked to like get my presentation on what I wanted to be, I was like, I want to be Mia Hamm when I grow up. It wasn't, I want to be a professional soccer player. I will be Mia Hamm. There will be a ham on the back of my jersey. Like, this is what is going to happen.
You're going to change your name and everything. She's like, I'm going to be her.
Yeah, exactly. And then I wanted to be a doctor. And then didn't want to be a doctor.
I used to argue with my pediatrician about becoming a doctor. He used to tell me, he's like, you should be a doctor. I was like, no.
Yeah.
I was pretty sure on that. I was like, that's a long time in school. and I like learning.
Yeah, I
And
didn't
like
even know that. I was just like, well, my mom worked in the medical industry, so a lot of her friends were cardiologists. So I was like, of course I'm going to be a doctor. And I was like, I like, skin, so I'll be a dermatologist.
well,
That was literally the thought that went into it, and that carried me through high school.
yeah, I think we talked a little bit about your like experience kind of offline about like going to college and like being pre-med initially even.
Yeah, it was doomed from the start, really.
What makes you feel it was doomed from the start?
Organic chemistry is what makes me think it was doomed from the start, because I did not know that was a requirement. Turns out chemistry is a big part of medicine, as it should be. And one thing I am really not good at is organic chemistry. So yeah, I sort of X'd myself out of that pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't know that I would.
That and pre-med is very competitive. It's not like we all work together to succeed. It's like, I work harder than you.
I'm smarter than you. I'm going to get all the scholarships and awards. Good luck to you.
Yeah. So it wasn't a very collaborative space, we'll say, which didn't really align with my ethos at the time.
That makes sense. I remember like high school and studying was a different animal than college for sure. Like
big time.
You usually have like study buddies and people would share notes and stuff. And by the time you got to college, it was like you're on your own.
Yeah, people didn't want to share their notes with you at all. Wow. It was just like, because my notes might be really good, and then the curve, you'll get a better grade than me on the curve. It's like, okay, I see where this is going.
It sounds intense. I would have probably taken the door out the way too. Like, this is entirely too much effort.
Yeah.
Not that
I mean, it led me to environmental studies, so I got to be grateful for that.
Environmental studies. So, if you'd gotten a chance to do like environmental science, what do you think you would have done?
I always liked the idea of helping businesses make sustainable decisions that would improve their bottom line. So that would be like financially a smart decision in the long run, and just being able to prove that to them, that putting certain practices in place would actually end up helping them. That was sort of my goal when I graduated. The real world is a bit different than that.
So we all find out the hard way. I'm like, this is why career conversations exist, so we can hopefully spare some people some of the shock. I found myself talking to my sister recently. She's like, I don't know what to do after graduation. I feel so lost. And I was like, what no one tells you is that is perfectly normal, and a lot of people feel that way. I said, so don't panic. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, and we can walk through it together.
Yeah, and you don't really know what you want to do until you're in a role, any role, to figure out, do I like this or do I not like this?
Right. Like, do I like working alone? Do I like working collaboratively? Like, do I need a space that's super quiet where we can hear the clock tick? Or do I need people kind of roariously laughing at some point throughout the day to keep the momentum? So.
Yeah. Or, when do I work best? Like, what time of day do I work best?
That is true. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the fact that you wanted to be Mia Hamm when you grow up at one point, and eventually that became pre-med and then environmental science, and now you're a kick-ass marketer.
Thank you.
What is something you wish you knew before you started your career?
Oh, gosh. I wish I knew how important relationships were. I think up until I graduated college, I always thought that it was what you knew in your head that would get you where you wanted to go. And because that's how the school system is structured, you succeed when you know more.
Mm-hmm.
And
you get the A, the B, or the C. How are you doing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It turns out no one cares about your GPA really, after you graduate. It's not on your resume, or it shouldn't be. And I think someone just told me, like, it's your relationships that are actually going to get you these jobs and these opportunities. And it's the relationships that are going to, help you decide the direction that you want to take with your career. I probably would have gotten to where I needed to be a little bit quicker.
I can relate to that feeling of feeling like if I'd only known these things. But then I kind of reflect and realize that some of those weird sidewindy experiences helped me get the skills that I needed to be able to get the next step.
Yeah.
But no, it's a good example
yeah.
of what you should know is that your relationships are going to be much more vital than whether or not you had a 3.9 GPA and, really, fun times trying to study and stay awake. Like you need to get to know people. Can you give me an example of how relationships have really helped you professionally?
Yeah. So my dad was a land surveyor, and this is sort of part of my career story as well, as it turns out. And he worked for RBF, that then became Baker. And when I was struggling to find a job, he's like, Keelin, you're a great writer. You should be in marketing. I'm going to introduce you to our marketing director, Sue Pender. And I talk about Sue all day long because she's the best. She was my first mentor in this industry. She was the person who, just because she's a nice person, invited me to her office and showed me what proposals look like. And it was like this massive binder. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And she helped me get my first job in the AEC industry in the States. And I called her for just about everything after that. Anytime I was considering a job offer, or even if I was like, is this right? Is this not right? Like when you're just starting out, you don't really know what's normal versus not normal in any job. And so I would just call her and say, hey, is this normal? And she's like, not normal. Out you go. And
that's awesome.
It was just that one relationship. Yeah.
So have you gotten a chance to be a mentor to other people?
I have, and it's the best.
I
highly suggest it.
She said, yes.
When I was president of the SMPS Orange County chapter, I started a mentorship program, but because I was president, I wasn't able to participate in it. I knew that it was really important, and I knew that our chapter needed it. So I launched it, and in my heart, I was a little bit jealous that I couldn't be part of it. I was like, I want to own this, but I also want to do it. So the next year I became a mentor to my protege, and it is really, really cool helping someone else succeed. Like their wins become your wins. Truly. It's the things that, when she came to me saying, I got a promotion, and I think, a lot of it had to do with what you taught me. Like that's the stuff that I leave at the end of the day and tell my husband, like it really hits differently when you've helped someone achieve something. It's like, it feels like you've also gotten something. It's awesome.
That's amazing that you find mentoring so rewarding. Some people love it, some people hate it.
Really? Well.
Yeah, I know. I'm always confused by that too. Like I love interns. Like I'm like, oh, we're getting summer interns. Can I be on the interviews? Like I want to talk to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just great to be able to help somebody learn the skills that are fundamental, not only to their role specifically, but also a lot of those life skills that you don't necessarily learn when you're entering the workspace, like time management.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's
I think also I had a Sue Pender, and not everyone has a Sue Pender. So I was like, I want to be someone's Sue.
Aww.
Like it felt like the right thing. I was like, I wouldn't be where I am without a mentor or mentors. Basically, anyone I ask advice for is like by default becomes my mentor. So I just never leave people alone after.
She's like, look, I got you now. You're mine forever.
You're mine forever.
Well, that's good though. You continue to build connections and maintain those connections with people. That's going to be a skill that's going to be super vital in growing your company.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So you sounds like you're ready to take off for the races. You know how to build relationships with people. You're really good at the skills you need to get stuff done, and you understand what deadlines feel like.
Yeah, I do understand what those feel like. Yeah.
A year from now, when I call you, what is it that would make you most excited to share that would be a mark of success for you?
Ooh, gosh, a mark of success. I think I would like to have the same level of peace that I feel right now, while also being challenged and learning new things. I think I really start to take a nosedive professionally and personally when I'm not like learning new stuff. So a year from now, when the shiny bits of having a new company and like getting a logo and setting up a website, when all that has when my honeymoon phase with this company is over, I hope that I'm still really engaged because I'm learning new things. I hope I don't just, default to the things that I'm good at.
That's smart. And then you can be an even more impactful mentor and a greater asset to the businesses that you support.
I hope so. That's the goal.
Yeah, I'm rooting for you.
Thank you.
So yeah, if those ways I can support you, let me know.
Thank you.
I want to see everybody win. I feel like there is room at the table for all of us.
Definitely. I think that's one thing that's really special about this industry is I've never seen two independent consultants really go at it. It's more of like, right. Oh, cool, you're with me on this,
Yeah.
It's really unique. I had to write, I just finished a microeconomics course, and we had to write graduate papers, like applying microeconomics to, whatever we wanted. And I decided to apply it to my new company in this industry. And one of the questions was like, who is your competition? And I was like, no one really, like, are there other consultants that do the same thing? Absolutely. And they very well may be better at me, better than me at a lot of other things, but I would never feel like I'm in competition with anyone. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, no, I've talked to so many consultants and they're all like, we help everybody. Like it's just kind of that sort of energy. And I love that about the AEC industry. When you aren't focused on building your business and being a super professional and a mom, what are you doing for fun if you got any time?
What am I doing? We just bought a house, so I am not very good at interior design, but I'm trying.
Me either.
Doing my best. I find it really fascinating. It's kind of another type of, it's like a creative science that I haven't totally figured out yet, which I'm really enjoying. I think also having a more flexible work schedule has allowed me to really enjoy exercising in a way that I haven't. Like, I actually really enjoy going out for runs now. It feels like something I'm doing for, my mental health.
I
So
applaud
as annoying
anyone
as
who
that
goes
is.
out running and enjoys it. I hate running. If I go running, I pretty much probably spend like the first 4 or 5 minutes cursing in my head. And usually my husband's beside me, and as we start, he says, "The sooner you're finished, the sooner you're done." Like, because I hate running. But that's
Yeah, and I mean,
exciting.
I did too. It used to be like a punishment in soccer to run. It's taken me a long time to get here.
So you found joy in something that used to be a punishment. That's impressive. You keep mentioning stateside. Where did you move from?
I lived in Chile for 3 years when I first graduated. So I did my study abroad in Chile and then moved back there when I graduated. So
What
yeah,
made you move back to
was fun.
Chile?
Jobs. When I graduated, firms were, everyone was coming back from the recession. So a lot of firms were hiring on the staff that they had to let go. And they were asking for like 3 to 5 years of experience coming out of a recession. So that would have meant that I would have to have been working in the middle of the recession. So it just wasn't possible. So
Like
I
you're
moved
not
back to
on the
Chile.
same time. And it's like, you want what? No way. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. So I went to a country that had a little bit more reasonable expectations to get experience, because I was like, I'm not going to have anything to put on my resume if I hang out here. So it made sense. I was living in an apartment in Chile, and in Chile, you don't have to sign year-long leases. Everything is a month-to-month. So when I was on my study abroad, I saw a lot of people from Spain and Europe coming over to look for jobs, and their landing place was like the cheapest apartment they could find, which just happened to be my apartment. Because I had no money as a student.
That's usually the college situation. I've had
there was like one room. It was just a rotating room. And I was just like, well, clearly there's jobs, because I've had about 8 roommates in the last month. So
wow. So how was that experience? Like, kind of living in the space with like different roommates and stuff. Was it similar to your college experience, or how was it different?
it was very different in some really transformative ways, we'll say. It was a really difficult period. I didn't have a car there, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you're from California and you're used to just being at, drive everywhere, like if I went to the grocery store, I'd have to physically walk all of my groceries back home. And the nearest grocery store was like a 15-minute walk away. So there was that. It's a different culture. So there were a lot of times where I'd have to sort of, be a little bit more rough than I'm used to. Normally I walk down the streets and people say hi, and, it's a lot more fun. And I don't mean to make Chile sound scary. It's not.
No,
but
I don't get that impression. Like, heck, when you mentioned that, I thought of like my summer in New York, and it was like, I grew up in the South. People say hello when you walk by. I had to learn not to smile at people because they would think I was flirting.
Yeah. They're like, guys on the street would like pull your hair and touch you when you didn't ask to be touched. And this isn't like grimy people. This is like men in business suits. Yeah.
Well,
with wedding rings. Like, you're just like, yeah. It was, I'm making that sound bad. It was a really
no, but it's a reality of the experience for you. I mean, that doesn't mean that's like how the whole country is, but that's your lived experience. So that's not invalid.
Yeah, it did make me grateful for what I've got. I will say that. And it sort of, coming back, it made me realize that the things that I thought were so important maybe weren't as important. Because I also traveled through South America a bit, and it was the first time that I really saw true poverty. And even just like as a college student, I was, the way I was living was so much better that even then I was really grateful for what I had. And it sort of, a lot of the stuff that you go through gets put into perspective.
That makes sense. You're like, okay, I have these things. It kind of makes me think of when I went to Nairobi. Like, there's places that are just as like beautiful as places you'd see here in America and well established, and then there's like the slums, and you're like, how many people reside in these places? So it's a reality check, like that there are varying degrees of like the quality of life we can have.
Yeah, right next to one another. That was really what I found to be shocking.
That's insightful. For sure. Like,
yeah, it also gave me a bit more empathy for coming back here for people who have English as a second language. Because I was the Spanish as a second language, and not being able to have a sense of humor really translated over, or not knowing industry terms, or having my writing corrected all the time and not understanding what I did wrong. It definitely gives you a lot more empathy, especially in the line of work we're in. When people misspeak or their email seems really aggressive. Like, I got told all the time that my emails were way too aggressive because I ended my sentences with periods. Apparently you just don't do that in Chile, which is news to me. So then I started ending everything with a smiley face, and they were fine.
This is like, look, smiley face. Like, I'm not yelling at you, I promise.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was an eye-opener.
Oh, that is cool. Thank you for sharing that experience with me, and how something as simple as sending an email can really shift like your perspective. Is there anything that I have not asked that you'd like to share?
I think you hit all the main points. Okay. The highlight reel.
The highlight reel, but the real highlight is, how do people get in touch with you?
LinkedIn is probably the best way to get in touch with me. I am a big believer in, if you want to connect, please send me a message. Otherwise, I don't know who you are.
This is true. She said, like, well, who's this person? I don't know. Okay, so LinkedIn is the way to get in touch with Keelin. Yes. Keelin, thank you so much for being a part of Career Conversations. I'm really excited about your journey with your new business. And congratulations on the new baby and the new house. Lots of exciting things.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, friends, thank you so much for watching Career Conversations. If you'd like to get a hold of Keelin, contact her on LinkedIn, and make sure you include a message, because nobody likes to try and guess what person came from, wherever. Just, it makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next time, thank you for watching Career Conversations. Love y'all.